Right now, I'm going to bring out our two faculty members, Mr. Kreutz. Oh, we have... The LHS gymnasium was going to be his Sistine Chapel until the lead paint was found on the ceiling. Given the already dangerous levels of lead in his blood from eating paint chips off the side of the house as a kid, he has to find another place for his painting, a portrait of Marlon Brando, Tom Morello, and Pippa Sue, all riding the back of a wildcat. If you know any fitting spaces for this piece of art, let him know. This is Mr. Kreutz. You can stay out here. He was one of the original writers for Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, a kids show on PBS, but the characters and plot were way too complex for him, so he had to quit. Now, when not teaching, he spends his time practicing his puppetry skills as he has an audition this summer for another kids show, Sesame Street. This is somewhat ironic, as his nickname is also Oscar the Grouch. Please welcome Mr. O'Neill. I know, well, sometimes the truth hurts. All right. Mr. Tooley, can you please bring out the envelope of excitement? All right. Mr. O'Neill, here's your clipboard. Mr. Kreutz, your clipboard. Here's your pen and your pen. All right. So no. They're going to be writing backstage. So as Mr. Tooley opens up your envelope, please write down the information that you need for your story.
Okay, we have a knock on the door at 2 in the morning. We have a person who steals cats. We have a person with very bad breath. O'Neill, you're familiar with this, right?
Person.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, just currently.
No autobiographies, though, okay. And then we have, for your setting, a laundromat. And now, you may go backstage and begin writing.
Do they even know what laundromats are?
Do you know what laundromats are?
Yes. Come on. Sorry. That's a legitimate question.
All right. So while they're backstage writing, we are going to do one of our favorite events here on our staff day, and that is Two Truths and a Lie. We have 3 faculty members here. 2 of them are going to be telling true stories. One of them is going to be telling you a lie. I'm going to introduce them right now to you. And then we will be using a highly scientific method to determine who goes first in our event. All right. Her last name stems from the Dutch word for a man who works in the forest. She learned that from a letter her grandfather wrote her when she was 16. Sadly, her grandfather wrote with, not in, and spelled forest with 2 R's. This led her to believe it was her destiny to work with Forrest Gump, who does not actually exist. Unfortunately, it took her 2 years waiting tables at the Bubba Gump restaurant on Navy Pier to figure that out. A psychological puzzle unto herself, Ms. Bosman. Say hello. Because her name can be translated to mean mill, this LHS counselor only buys flour, grain, and cereal of the Bob's Red Mill brand. Over the years, she has bought so much, in fact, that she single-handedly funded the new mill at Bob's plant in Oregon in 2017. Should you ever travel there, you'll find a statue of her just outside the mill, recognizing her generous contributions. Please welcome the only employee at LHS to have a life-size statue in her honor, Mrs. Molina. Originally told his last name came from the German word for glass chalice, he spent all of his 20s learning how to become a glass blower in hopes of starting his own glass goblet company. Sadly, on his 30th birthday, that dream shattered, pardon the pun, when he learned that his name actually came from the German word for double chin. Since then, he's been working on growing his. Please welcome Mr. Kelch. All right, if the 3 of you could stand up and come here center stage. We use a highly scientific method to determine who goes first, so we're going to have you stand in a sort of circle. It's hard to stand in a circle with 3 people, so maybe a triangle. Yep, triangle. Mr. Tooley is going to use the highly scientific method of flipping a rubber chicken. He makes noise. Can you squeak him? All right, never. Oh, it looks like Ms. Bosman is first, so she's going to be reading her story first. Pay attention. Try to determine whether it is true or a lie, and then we will have our other 2 faculty members come up. Whatever you want to do, you can hold it or you can talk into it that way.
Hi. Okay.
Is that on?
Hello? Okay. For spring break, my senior year of college, my roommates and I decided to go on an outdoor adventure. We contacted the Indiana University Office of Outdoor Adventures and looked up trips that they offered. We decided on applying to hike the Grand Canyon. There was a physical test to get accepted to the trip. Cameron, one of the leaders, called me in January to set up an appointment. I mentioned that a few of the times would not work because of water polo practice. When he heard that I played water polo, he said a physical test wasn't necessary, and my roommates and I were all accepted. But it's only club water polo, I said as he hung up. Fast forward to March, after 24 hours in the car and a final 30 miles on a dirt road. We arrived at the Royal Arch Loop at the south base of the Grand Canyon for our 5-day trek. We got to the trailhead well after the sun had gone down and slept on top of the snow. I was not too impressed with my 0-degree sleeping bag. Day 1. Before the sun, we woke up to start the hike. My hiking boots had done 2 workouts on the elliptical before this, so I very incorrectly assumed that I had broken them in. The first 1.5 miles were covered in snow, and we descended 2,000 feet. The plan was to hike for about 10 miles a day and take 15-minute breaks every hour to eat salami, peanut butter, and some Pillsbury canned frosting. Some people did that all in one bite. I thought the canyon trail was going to be similar to a dirt-covered sidewalk, with plenty of room for walking. It was much closer to a rocky balance beam. Within the first 3 hours, another member of our group rolled his ankle. About an hour later, I tripped. I caught myself from falling over the edge of a canyon by a thin tree trunk. Before the end of the trip, there would be a dislocated knee, blood, sweat, and tears, all mine, caused by the canyon. Day 2. Muscles I didn't know existed hurt. Blisters popped as I put on my shoes. We had to hike a little further and faster to get more water. There were a bunch of rock avalanches we had to scale down with our 65-liter backpacks. Mine was 65. Other people's packs went up to 90 liters. I ate dirt, but in my defense, I thought it was a little Debbie brownie crumb that I had dropped. Near dusk, we came across a sketchy crawl space. We were going to literally have to crawl, pushing our backpacks in front of us. Cameron said, "Yeah, I think we can do this." Seemingly harmless, but it sent me into a complete meltdown with the words, I think we can," on repeat. My body could not move forward. Frozen in fear and struggling to breathe. A full-fledged panic attack, still on the edge of a canyon. By the time I calmed down, it was dark and too late to crawl. Darn. We walked back a half a mile to some flat ground and slept there. My roommate Katie wished on a shooting star. The stars, by the way, were the most beautiful I have ever seen. But Katie wished on a shooting star that I would make it out of the canyon alive. Funny thing is, she didn't feel the need to make a wish for anyone else. Day 3. We were supposed to have a day of rest, but we took a slightly alternate route to avoid that sketchy crawl space, and still had 3 miles to go to get to the Colorado River. Day 3 was the day we would have to rappel down the ledge of death. It's literally called that. What a lovely little nickname. Why are club water polo players allowed to do this, let alone humans? Cameron set up the ropes, and one at a time we strapped in and scooted across the ledge, gripping with our fingertips, our heels hanging over the edge of a canyon, to a little landing we would rappel from. I really missed those rocky balance beam paths. And then I blacked out. I have no idea how myself or the pack got down, but I remember looking up and Katie was waving at me, and I was still alive. We made it down, all 12 of us, and had 2 more miles to the Colorado River. It was uneventful, thankfully. With a couple of hours until darkness, some members of the group hiked to a waterfall. I took that opportunity to sit still. Day 4. We made it to the bottom, and it was now time to get back up to the top. Pain was just a part of me now. I was so sore, I couldn't feel my body, but somehow could keep it moving. We needed to start moving faster because we were running out of food. At first it was flat with a steady incline, until it wasn't. Day 5. I thought the days before were difficult, but day 5 felt like we were running up a 45-degree hill for about 10 hours straight. I don't know what happened to me, but it was probably an asthma attack. 2 more hours until the top and only 3 sips of water left in my backpack. Meredith, who was basically a mountain ranger, hung back with me. She led this trip last year and explained that they weren't able to finish it. Someone had torn an ACL and another person had ripped ligaments in their ankle. She was saying this to compliment me for almost completing the loop, to take my mind off the hike ahead. But all I was thinking was, why did you take me here? Before I knew it, we made it out of the Grand Canyon. We drove back to Grand Canyon Village to celebrate with tacos and showers. Today, I can almost look back on that experience fondly.
All right, so hopefully you paid attention because you have to determine whether that's a true story or a lie. Are we going to flip a chicken for the next one, or do we want to just decide? Okay, we're flipping the chicken. Okay, Mrs. Molina and Mr. Kelch, please stand up. All right, here we go. Mr. Tooley. Mrs. Molina is going to tell her story next.
Hello. There you go. Good morning. Let me start by saying that writing is not my strongest talent, especially when I'm doing it in my second language and not in Spanish. Still, I do like to tell stories, and so the only thing I ask is that you please show me some grace for the next several minutes. In everyone's life, there's a moment in time when all of a sudden you realize, I'm getting older. Don't get me wrong, this is not a pity party about me reaching adulthood or something like that. Seriously, I'm not sure when, but although I kept celebrating birthdays every year, for whatever reason, I never felt like I was getting older. I know it's weird. I never denied my age, ever, but I seriously did not feel older. I just felt that it was another year of laughs, tears, adventures, and excitement. Then suddenly I was 39 years old. All of a sudden I felt like I was getting older. It hit me like a wall of bricks. At this point in my life, I was married, had finished graduate school, had 2 kids, and had survived the 2 worst possible hurricanes in the history of Puerto Rico, Irma and Maria. Still, I felt I needed to do some things differently in my life and decided that I was going to try new things and create more memories. I have never been afraid to experience certain things like rock climbing or surfing, especially living on an island for most of my life. But this time was different. I decided I was going to allow myself to be in the 20s again and take some chances. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about breaking the law or doing anything harmful. No. After I became a mother several years ago, I was afraid of doing the wrong thing because my actions could affect my beautiful children, or what would people say? However, I was turning 40 and I wanted to feel like I was 25 again. So I started thinking, what can I do? Sure, I had already done most things my other friends had, though, for example, some of them decided to lose weight before turning 40, or spending a day at the spa with friends, or even going on a self-exploring long vacation like doing El Camino de Emmaus in Spain. I kept thinking and thinking, what can I do that puts me in the eye of all my friends and family as the new me at 40? Finally, I thought of 2 things I could definitely make my friends wonder, how could she do that at this age? So first, I decided to go snorkeling in coral reefs with manatees. And I would also try the second longest, used to be first longest, zip line in the world, Toro Verde in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico. I know for some of you it might not be a big deal, but it is to me and to my close friends it's huge. So I set off in looking at dates, when to do these activities, and of course, having friends join the fun so they could take lots of pictures of me. Then I had to decide on costs and how to go about planning it. For sure, the snorkeling took the longest to plan due to Hurricane Maria and all the devastation it had left on the coast of the island. To be honest, halfway there, I almost quit because I thought, all this because I want to say that I want to have a proud moment in front of my friends? This is ridiculous. But still, the thought of being able to accomplish this and show pictures to my friends and family would be priceless. Then the day arrived. I did snorkel and saw some coral reefs, but to be honest, it became another reminder of the devastation the storm had caused. The reef was beautiful, but you could tell how it was not as bright or lively as it used to be, at least from the pictures I had seen. There was still debris from the rain, and in many areas, one could see how the reef was coming together after being broken, damaged, abandoned, if you will. Still at this point, I thought I would surely feel like I am back in my 20s and loving it. But no, that did not happen. The only thing I got from it at the end was some bragging rights. Then came the scariest of the two challenges I had given myself, this time ziplining in Toro Verde. Maybe you have seen it on TV, but it is more than 4,000 feet long, and it goes up to 60 miles per hour. You are not just seated, but flying like Superman in the air. This is why this zip line is called the Beast. It was absolutely frightening. Right before starting and jumping off, I cried, begged to be disconnected from the thing, and laughed all at the same time. I also found out that I could not just do one zip line, but had to do several of them to complete the lines. What? What did I get myself into? Each line took several minutes, but to me, it felt like an hour each. The process was absolutely exhilarating and scary, but it was beautiful and lots of fun. However, at the end of it all, while sitting at the side of the mountain and taking in all the views, green and lush mountains, the birds chirping, hearing people laugh, and seeing my friends have a blast, I asked myself, did I accomplish my goal? Do I feel like I am in my 20s again, with no worries or concerns? Deep inside of me, my response was no. I had not accomplished my purpose. I did not feel like I did in my 20s, but I surprisingly did not feel defeated. As I looked around me, I came to realize that I needed my almost 40 years of experience, happy and sad, to get me to where I was at that moment. I needed to let my fears and worries sink in to make me a stronger and younger self. Not younger in age, but understanding that every moment in life can be a time of reflection, mess up, and growth. I had the proof in front of me. Looking at the green mountains, months prior to this day, there was absolutely no green in the trees. All the mountains and trees looked like a war zone after the storm. Brown, broken, and destroyed. Now, after some time, those same trees had new leaves and were lush. Even the wind smelled new and fresh. It was at that moment that I realized that there was nothing I needed to prove just because I was turning 40. No matter my age or stage in life, I can grow new leaves, smell new air, and still enjoy who I am now. I should enjoy every stage of life anew and find what are the aspects of it that make me who I am now. Grow from others and allow others to grow from me. At the end, you might think or ask, would I zip line again? Probably not. But I will say that if I knew then what I know now, I would do it in a heartbeat. Thanks.
Wow, two very adventurous stories so far. Mr. Kelch, I wonder if yours is as adventurous. No. Okay, he says no. So I guess have low expectations.
Hi, can you guys hear me? I'm Mr. Kelch. I'll be your guide for the next 35 minutes on the wonderment and joy of the bandsaw. No? No. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. During my time in an all-boys academy, I learned a number of things. One lesson in particular happened during gym class in the fall of 1993. Since the weather was quite nice and we were given the option to go outside for the entire week instead of staying inside for gym, we knew that we wanted to play street hockey, and all of us came prepared to play, supplying our teams with sticks of all kinds and an array of ad hoc pads and protective gear. Some of us had wooden sticks, some of us had aluminum, and a few of us even had plastic. I had the traditional laminated wood hockey stick made by Sherwood that I'd found at the garage back home. At the age of 12, I had no idea there was a difference in hockey sticks. After all, what could possibly be different from stick to stick? Well, when I arrived in the parking lot that day for gym, my classmates quickly noticed that I had a left-handed hockey stick. I'm right-handed. It was brought to my attention, and I did my best to play it off as if the stick was intentional. Our gym teacher, Mr. Eagle, had us line up, and we picked teams. I was pretty happy with my team since most of the guys looked like and talked like they knew what they were doing. I sure didn't. Fellow classmate Gus, who had taken hockey very seriously for many years, brought a professional hockey-grade goalie pads to wear. He'd even had a blonde crew cut. You knew he was serious. Gus played club ice hockey, and he had some serious gear. We figured nothing was getting by him. Teams moved to their sides of the parking lot. Mr. Eagle called 2 students to center, and the ball dropped. We began a typical middle school game of street hockey. Lots of yelling, banging our sticks on the pavement, and calling for the ball, even though none of us were in the position to do anything productive at all. Since I was pretty darn new to hockey, I found myself playing defense, pretending I knew what was going on. I was held back by Gus and guarded his right side. He was focused on the commotion all over the parking lot, and I did my best to mimic the other guys and make it look like I knew what I was doing. Then Gus yelled at me, "Hey, why is your stick on the wrong side of your body?" Initially, I didn't realize that question was for me. I was too worried about what to do next. "Kelch, hey, why are you using your stick that way? Are you left-handed or what?" Oh, crap. I was running around with a left-handed curved hockey stick from the 1970s on my right side. I hadn't noticed until Gus yelled at me. "Sorry, I forgot." Gus yelled back, "You forgot? You forgot what hand you use?" About 10 seconds later, the ball came my way, and in one motion, I switched the stick to my left hand, put it on the pavement, and ran after the incoming ball. I decided the best way to put it back into play would be to clear it from our zone, hang back until the ball came back my way. I took a deep swing back and promptly missed the ball entirely as it lazily rolled towards our goal. Gus yelled, "What the?" as he played it with his stick and glove. "Do you even know how to play hockey?" What could I say? I never really played before, and I wasn't fooling anyone. "You couldn't even play mini golf with that swing," Gus yelled. Every 7 minutes, Mr. Eagle blew his whistle, and 2 players came out from each side, and 2 subs came and took their place. The whistle blew, and Gus yelled, "Kelch, that whistle's for you. Get off." I didn't argue. Why would I? I was about as bad at street hockey as I was with polynomials with Mr. Kester's algebra. I took my spot on the sideline, leaned up against my stick against one of the concrete lamp poles in the parking lot, and waited for my turn to go back in. Time went on, the whistle blew again. Gus yelled, "Not Kelch." I was actually okay with that. I enjoyed cheering on my team, and I had run out of fake moves to make out there. As with any other 12-year-old, you get bored pretty quickly. I didn't want to sit on the pavement because that might look uncool. Like missing that shot with my stick was way cooler. So I leaned my back up against the stick, which propped up against the concrete pole. The stick was pretty narrow, so I did what I could to hold myself up and balance myself there, but by still trying to look cool. I crossed my arms and used my hockey stick as a piece of furniture, holding myself up in a parking lot. Yep, everything was good now. Then out of nowhere, Brian, a friend of mine who was on the other team, was playing the ball right up to my sideline. He was a little overzealous during gym, and he threw his stick to prevent the ball from going out of bounds. I totally misjudged the velocity of Brian's stick as it helicoptered across the asphalt right to where I was leaning. In one perfect shot, his stick landed his hockey stick loose from under me, and I fell to the ground like a bag of dirt. Everyone laughed and had a good go for that one. Gus yelled, "That wouldn't have happened if he had a right-handed stick." I brushed myself off, leaned over, and picked up the stick. I was leaning over, I saw something strange. It was a box of Junior Mints at the base of the pole. I picked it up and gave it a good look over. It was open and clearly been sitting there a while, but I figured, hey, a free snack. I polished off the first few Junior Mints, and so far so good. My face didn't melt, no odd side effects. I was feeling okay, and I kept going. I munched down in my minty parking lot treat over the next few minutes. When I got near the bottom of the package, I realized it was no longer individual candies. It was a conglomeration of minty filling and melted chocolate oozing out of the other side of the package. That was probably why someone abandoned it in the first place. Meh, why stop now? It's all the same stuff. I then proceeded to eat the remaining contents of the box of open, melted parking lot Junior Mints during gym class while waiting for my turn to sub in hockey. The whistle blew again, and this time I was in. I had a belly full of chocolate minty goodness and a left-handed hockey stick from the disco era. What could possibly go wrong? I decided to play a little more aggressive this time and pursued the ball everywhere. I didn't just hang back, I went for it. Mr. Eagle yelled out, 1 minute left. I landed straight in the middle of the ice, and I turned to my left and ran down the sideline and pulled back for a shot on goal. I wasn't going to whiff it this time. I was going to smack it as hard as I could. I let it fly with everything I had. I made perfect left-hand contact, and the ball made a straight beeline for the goal. I watched as if it were in slow motion. The ball sailed over the goalie's glove and at the back of the net. I couldn't believe it. I just scored, left-handed, no less. Mr. Eagle blew his whistle. That's time, gentlemen, go inside. Then I heard, what in the name of all things holy, Kelch, are you doing? As Gus yelled as he picked the ball up out of our own goal.
All right. Those were 3 pretty fine stories. So now what we're going to do is give you, audience members, a chance to ask questions of our story writers to try to determine which one is the lie and which 2 are truths. So Mr. Tooley is out there with a microphone. He'll be looking for you, and Mrs. Shanebeck is going to be out there in a moment. So if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. They're going to ask you what your question is, and then you'll go ahead and ask it on the mic.
Okay, we got Bobby here.
How old is Mrs. Molina?
Oh, here.
We have a question here.
Mr. Kelch, did you get sick from the junior mints?
I'm sorry?
Did you get sick from the junior mints?
Oh, absolutely not. They're delicious.
Okay, one over here.
Mrs. Bosman, what time of the year did you go to the Grand Canyon?
March, spring break.
Any questions? Gotta grill them a little bit, guys. Miss Bosman, what did you do about your dislocated knee?
So this has happened before, my knee issues, so I actually brought a brace with me and put it on and then kept hiking.
Miss Molina, when did you go on your vacation? Like what year? Or
You're asking me my age again.
No, wait, were you working here when you went on your vacation?
No.
Okay.
No.
We have another question here, too.
So Miss Bosman mentioned she went on spring break in Arizona and there was snow. I found that, I don't know if that's true, because I went on spring break to Arizona and there was no snow.
At spring break, there was snow. We were on the top of the canyon, so it was like really cold up top and then 80 degrees at the bottom.
Okay, Kelch.
Suspicious.
Hey, Kelch. What up? What? Hey, do you even play hockey?
Yes. Riveting.
Okay, back here.
Kelch, what's the name of the academy you went to?
That would be Northridge Preparatory for Boys in Niles, Illinois.
Didn't skip a beat.
No. Floating. Graciously.
This is a question for my dad, Kelch. Did you finish the whole box of junior mints?
Can you repeat that, please?
Did you finish the whole box of the mints that you found?
I ate the whole box. I actually kept the box for about 2 days in my locker. I couldn't tell you why, but...
Hey, Couch. Uh-huh. Did you win the hockey game?
Well, I scored on myself, so that would be a no.
That's disappointing.
I agree.
How high was the snow? Miss Bosman, how much snow was on the ground at the Grand Canyon?
Like when you walked on it, you could pat it down, but you could definitely see snow everywhere.
How many inches are we talking here?
What was the question?
How many inches of snow?
I'm gonna go 2. It's a guess.
Any other questions on this side?
So, Miss Bosman, yeah. Did you, were you walking perfectly fine after you dislocated your knee?
No.
Okay.
Here, go ahead. Take that one. Okay. Do you think you know? Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask in a moment that the one who told the lie stand up. So by a show of hands, how many of you think that Mrs. Molina's story is the lie? Okay, a smattering of people. How many of you think Mr. Kelch is lying to you? Huh. Fewer people. You got some trust from this audience. It's weird. How many of you think Mrs. Bosman is lying to you? Wow. Wow. All right. Can the real liar please stand? Mrs. Molina's story was a lie. Miss Bosman actually did dislocate her knee and almost had to be airlifted out of the Grand Canyon. And there was snow. Thank you very much. All right. At this time, we're going to bring out our improv writers, Mr. Kreutz and Mr. O'Neill. I'm pretty sure they had someone who steals cats, someone with very bad breath. They were in a laundromat, and there was a knock on the door at 2 in the morning, right? Yeah? Okay, come on out. And who wants to read first? Oh, they're playing rock, paper, scissors. You just did rock, 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 and now you're reading.
Rock around the clock.
Okay.
This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Ted was doing his best to avoid all eye contact because he wasn't in the mood for banal, mindless conversation. And what other type of conversation were you going to have at 1 a.m. in an all-night laundromat? There were 2 other people sharing the poorly lit, loud room with Ted. One guy was a real mouth breather. He looked like the type of person who steals cats and posts pictures to collect reward money. The other was a young woman who looked totally out of place, despite being at ease, and then see, this one started sucking, so I stopped that one. So we started over then. And by we, I mean me, mostly. Although your stories were very distracting, you guys, by the way. It was hard. All right, so scene change. Who steals a cat? Honestly, Jack didn't even like cats, and now he was running through the park because someone stole a cat. Not his cat, of course. He hates cats. But a girl he was trying to date's cat. He was willing to overlook her cat ownership because of her other qualities. So here he was running through the park. Chasing the guy who stopped to pet the cat. So wait, hold on. Who brings a cat to the park? That's like not even a thing, right? But I don't have time to edit again. So this guy, this flippin' guy who had bad breath, just came over and interrupted Jack, laying down his best game, pretending to like the cat. He and his bad breath started petting the cat and then grabbed the thing and took off. Jack was pretty surprised, a little amused, and then pretty annoyed. This day just wasn't going at all like he planned. At this point, I realized my incredibly misogynistic plotline, as I haven't developed the lead female character at all, And I mean, like, Jesus, I haven't even given her a name yet. So Sarah, there she is, jumped into action, first taking a swipe at the cat burglar, but missing. Cat burglar, come on, guys. Then I only had 20 minutes. Then Jack got up and started running after him. Side note, Sarah needs more agency here. This is her cat, after all. And she needs to be a stronger character because this whole damsel in distress bit is pretty lame. So, despite Jack's head start, Sarah passed him, calling on her athletic ability that included years of track. She caught up to the thief, and she surprised him as much as a 2 a.m. knock on the door. Sarah grabbed him by the collar. I had to try to figure out a way to keep the cat safe, like in this whole process. And the dude had no choice but to stop. This was when they ended, and all of a sudden I realized I forgot a key plot component from the magic envelope. So Sarah had her cat, ditched that lame Jack, and headed to the laundromat. She thought to herself, well, this is a seemingly interesting and out-of-nowhere plot twist. I wonder what the rest of my day will bring. Hopefully it will bring out something more well thought out and planned than this day started. The end.
Mr. O'Neill, that was fantastic. I'm actually very proud of you. I thought that was great. And I like that you just completely abandoned the first draft. You got to do that sometimes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kreutz.
Well, I was up one night, the second Tuesday of last week, when I was disrupted by something that occurred into my canceling headphones, a knock over somewhere in my dream, and then I had a smell of a dryer sheet with my favorite scent, banana. I used that banana one time when I was hanging out with my friend Marshmallow, who was eating too much nachos with blue cheese on it. His breath was terrible because he never brushes his teeth. He just kind of talks a lot and eats and plays video games. But I like banana. Then my dream faded into a badminton event that I was playing with Beyonce. And we were discussing Sungwon Cho, one of these YouTubers that we both liked. But I began to argue about one episode that he had versus that. Didn't want to fight with Beyonce because she's big time, so I thought I'd change the actual atmosphere of what we were doing, and I brought up some of the new video games that were coming out, and I said, so what do you think, we're hitting the badminton, what do you think about the new Mortal Kombat 11 or the Final Fantasy, the Zodiac? And she's like, I hate Final Fantasy. Well, I got upset, so I lofted one really high shuttlecock up in the air because it made me angry that she would hate Final Fantasy. And as I lofted the shuttlecock in the air, off my back jumped this Turkish Persian cat of mine called Flying Carpet. I came up with that name when I was little watching Aladdin. As Flying Carpet was soaring through the air, trying to knock down the flying shuttlecock, or birdie, the birdie was oddly hovering as I'm seeing this whole action occurring. It was snagged from the air by Spider-Man, who just showed up in our badminton event with Beyonce. But now Beyonce was not against me, she was next to me, playing in this game. Well, my cat got snagged by Spider-Man, and he zipped out the window. Then my headphones that are supposed to be knocking out all the sound so I could sleep and dream about stuff like this got disrupted again, and I realized there was somebody knocking at the door. So I got up, I walked to the door, and it was Travis Scott and my friend Steve. They were arguing about who'd be the best third player in the Apex Legends Battle Royale, which was going to go on in about 10 minutes. And of course, I'm looking at him with my headphones on thinking, me, I would be the best one. Just then I felt the world closing in on me, like it was shrinking, which happens in that game, by the way, if you played it. As I was back to back with Travis Scott and Steve fighting off Beyonce and Spider-Man, who was using my cat as a badminton racket, since we were being assaulted by exploding shuttlecocks that were coming in from all angles, I felt suffocated. The world was crowding in, closing in. It looked like Battle Royale was a total loss and we were going to lose. Then out of nowhere, DJ Snake appeared and he began to play Astro World, the clean version. At which time the fighting stopped. Travis Scott looked at me and smiled and said, "I finally made it." And the world was going to be a better place. And he told me, "I'm going to go out and buy me a pair of PG2s and spend about $1,000 because I'm a big time player now." And then we ran out of time. That was my dream.
I feel like people might have a lot of questions about that one. We only have a couple of minutes. Can I just ask each of you if you can answer this question? What was the hardest, most difficult part of this activity?
Trying to find a story appropriate for the audience.
Trying to not listen to them, because when you have ADHD and you're all over the place, you're listening and trying to write and doing everything, so that was it.
All right, I think you both did a fantastic job. Just by applause, who liked Mr. O'Neill's story? And who liked Mr. Kreutz's story? Very nicely done. I would like to thank all of our faculty guests today. Thank you for being a great audience and have a wonderful day.